In this video, I'm going to show you how we can create a very simple website using ChatGPT. Yes, I'm jumping on the AI bandwagon here. Let's get into it. My name is Patrick and this is Everyday Tech for everyday people. And my full-time job is as a web developer. And I'm always looking for tools and ways to work faster, smarter, and better. And ChatGPT can be one of these tools to use. Now, there's been a lot of buzz around ChatGPT and OpenAI, and especially a lot of controversy around the creative space. But in the web development space and app development space, this can be a very useful tool. In my opinion, ChatGPT and OpenAI and all these other tools like Google's Bard are more useful to those who already know what's going on. So I'm already a web developer, but I can use these tools to make my life a lot easier, to create different snippets, different pieces of code. And then once I get it to a certain level, I can take that code to another level with my expertise as well. So in this video, I'm going to use ChatGPT exclusively, not do any coding, and just do a bunch of prompts to create a website. So let's get into it right now. So here we are in ChatGPT, and we're going to put in some general prompts to create a website for us. But let me tell you up front and give you the best advice I can give you in using this tool is the more you know about your website, even to the different sections, the way it's structured, even to the little details that you want, the more time you'll save using this tool. So every time you put in a prompt or a message to generate a website, the code for you, it does take a little time to generate the code. And I'll put the timestamps of the code of how long it does take. I think it takes about 30 seconds to a minute, depending on the code time, how complicated the site is. We're going to do a very simple website here, so it should be pretty quick. But every time you do one little change, it does generate the code again and again. And then the other thing I'll say is like with a lot of things with ChatGPT, it doesn't always get everything right, but with some experience, you can correct some of the issues that it has. And if something's not working, you can actually tell it and say, this is not working. And a lot of times it will correct itself. So one thing I do know about my website is I want to create a website that's using Bootstrap 5, which is a HTML and CSS framework. Remember, this is a tool not to create everything for you that you don't know. In other words, if you know the tool, use this as a tool to help you, this will really help you a lot more or benefit you a lot more. So I already know Bootstrap 5. I already know HTML, CSS. I know a lot of JavaScript. So I'm using this tool to kind of help me work faster here. So what we're going to do is, since I already know I'm going to use Bootstrap 5, let's say create a website using Bootstrap 5. And this will start generating code. What it does is it tells you what it's doing, and it's going to start generating the code for you. Now, one little thing here is we're going to see if this actually works, because sometimes it includes the style sheets and the JavaScript libraries from a wrong source. And we can correct it and tell it to point to the right source. But let's see what it generates. And the other thing I'll tell you, mention here about every time you do this, it actually generates something a little bit different. It doesn't give you the same answer every time, which is good and bad. But this is really to get us to a starting point where we can modify the code later on ourselves. Okay, so it finished the code, generating the code, and it tells you kind of what it did, the kind of a summary of what happened and then what you need or where you need to save it. It's telling us to save it into index.html. I'm going to go ahead and copy the code. We're going to go into Visual Studio Code here. I have something called test.html. I'm going to go ahead and paste that code in here. And we're going to see if this actually generates here. And it did. Okay. So a lot of the websites that I created had a darker header, but this one created the light theme for us. So what it did is it created the different sections that we had here. It created some welcome text and it created a footer for us. So from here, we can do some changes. Let's say I want to have my website called Everyday Tech. I want to have the sections called Home, About, let's say videos, and then Contact Me. And then let's say I want to make it right aligned. The more changes that you know right up front, you can just do that in all one message. That way you kind of cut down on the time of generating or the number of times you have to regenerate the code. So let's go in here again and say the title of my site is Everyday Tech. Replace the navigation with the following: home, about, videos, contact us. Okay. And then we're going to say right align the navigation. So I did 2 different changes there. And if I had like 10 different changes that I know, then I can put them all at once and it'll generate everything all at once for me. So I'm going to go ahead and speed through these generating processes. Okay, we have updated our code. I'm going to go ahead and replace this code in Visual Studio Code. Save. Okay, instead of replacing this, I'm going to put it into a new tab so we can kind of compare of what we did. Here's what we started with. We had our website logo up there. And now we've changed it to Everyday Tech. It even changed the welcome text to Everyday Tech, even the footer, and we've right aligned our navigation. Okay, the next thing we'll do is we'll play with the navigation really quick first. And actually, I want to make this whole website a darker theme. So what we're going to do first, we're going to do 2 changes here. We're going to change this whole website to have a darker themed header and footer. And then we're going to make the navigation here have a drop down. So we're going to say about Everyday Tech and about Patrick. So let's go ahead and put that in. So use dark theme for the header and footer. Add a drop down navigation under about with the following sections: about Everyday Tech and about Patrick. Let's go ahead and have that generate the code for us now. Okay, so it's updated our code. Let's go ahead and replace our code with the updated code here. And so we'll come with. Now we have a darker themed website here. I told it to add this drop down here, which it can do. I can tell it to do it on the mouse over, but you can just tell it to do that. Now, the next thing we're going to do is kind of add our content up on here. So what I want to do is have a hero image here, like kind of a banner image, and then we're going to add a section that has 2 columns. One column will say latest projects, and one column will say latest news. So now let's add some content here. So we're going to say add a full width hero image with the welcome text over it. Then add a 2-column section. The left column is titled latest project, and the right column is called latest news. Let's go ahead and have that generate the code for us. And as you can see, once your code gets a little bit longer, it'll prompt you to say continue generating. So you can't just leave it there to render or generate the code by itself. So I'm going to point out some things that I already know that are some issues here. But let's go ahead and replace our code here and save. Now the thing I'm going to first point out is here. It says path to hero image.jpg. So this image doesn't exist. And of course, if we go here, it doesn't show any images, right? So what we want to do is there are a number of placeholder images. You know how we do placeholder text here called lorem ipsum? We want to do placeholder images for our background image. And actually, we want to do some placeholder images for under the latest project and latest news. So I'm going to use one of those services called lorem pixum. So I'm going to say use lorem pixum for the placeholder images, including the hero image. And I'm including that because I've realized that sometimes it doesn't actually include it in some of the hero images or when it's in the style sheet like that. And then add placeholder images below the title of latest project and latest news. Have it span the width of the column. So I wanted to add those images to the columns, to those little sections below, but I also wanted to make it sure it fills up the width of it. So sometimes it doesn't, it's too narrow, so it doesn't fill up the width as well. And as you can see, the hero image now does have our Pixum URL there. As you can see, it did render that image over there for the latest project. And it did it the same for the latest news, which is what we wanted. Okay, so let's see what this generated, and we should have a more completed website now as far as the way it looks. There are things that we are going to need to tweak, and we'll get there in a moment. But let's go ahead and see what we have rendered. Okay. So now we have our placeholder images. We have some stock images. These are random images, so if I hit refresh on this one, it'll do a random image on both the top and the bottom is what we wanted. I can tweak later on the spacing between here. But the other thing that I want to fix right now, and these are the fine details that you can use ChatGPT to help you with, is I want to put a little box around this text because it's hard to read depending on the image that's behind it. It's white text. That's not too bad, but this is really a no-no. This is an okay one, but this is a really a no-no for especially for accessibility and just in general readability. So I want to put a black box around this with maybe that's a little bit transparent. And then we're going to just put a little more margin from the footer as well. So let's go back into ChatGPT and say put a black box around the welcome message with an opacity of 70%. Increase the top margin of the footer. And let's see how this generates and renders the code for us. We have our updated code. And one thing I'll note again is it does give you kind of a explanation or a summary of what it did at the end. So let's go ahead and replace our code with our latest code here. And this is what it rendered. It rendered our box around our image here. So now that's very readable no matter what background image is behind there. So that's really good. Now, again, what I mentioned in the beginning is the more you know about your website up front, the better. So let's try to render this exact same website with kind of one prompt, or at least less prompts. So we're actually in a new chat here, and I'm going to go ahead and type in kind of everything I want on the website, and then I'll just kind of give you what I typed. I'll just kind of tell you what I typed in. Okay, so let me give you a summary of what I typed in here. Create a website called Everyday Tech using Bootstrap 5. I give it the navigation. I tell it to do the drop-down menus, right align that navigation. Then we go into the content. We have a full width hero image with text, welcome text over it. And we want to put that black box around that welcome text. Then we add a 2-column section with latest project, the latest news, have a placeholder image in there that spans the width of the column. Use lorem pick some for the placeholder images, including the hero images, and then add a footer at the bottom of the website. And then use the dark theme for the header and footer. Again, right away, it starts generating the code. Now, this may or may not be necessary as far as getting everything at once, because what happens is this whole prompt here, all the steps that we went through as far as the website, generating our first website, you can do this over a period of time. For the sake of this demo, I wanted to tell you that you can actually do everything in one prompt. The more you know, you can just kind of start generating. And, with websites, you are going to always do some tweaking here and there, and it does take time. So this is getting everything all at once is not a necessary step. It does save you some time, but the more, especially when we were doing some of the changes, I did 2 or 3 at a time, which if you already do know what you want to change, go ahead and put it right away to save you some time. So we'll wait until this finishes rendering, and we'll see what it came out with. We are probably going to have to do some tweaks to this code here. Okay, let's see what it did. Again, I can already tell you that it's not going to work because I even told it to say use lorem picsum for the hero images, and it didn't do it for me. But let me go ahead and kind of show you where we are at so far with this piece of code. Here we are. It actually did the piece of code there, and it did the drop down just fine. So everything else is good, but it didn't do the lorem picsum as far as the placeholder image, even though I did tell it to do it. So I'm going to do one more change, one more tweak to this to say use lorem picsum for the hero image. And then also I'm going to say add some placeholder text below the placeholder images on these 2 sections here. So I want some images down here as well. So we're going to say use lorem picsum for the hero image. Add text below the placeholder images in the latest project and latest news sections. Okay, I can already see that it already fixed our placeholder image as far as our hero image is concerned. And let's see what it rendered here. And now we have our placeholder image. We have some placeholder text below these sections, and we kind of have a start to our website. Of course, I could have replaced the code very easily myself as far as this placeholder image is concerned. But the one thing that the reason why I wanted to just include it in here is later on, I want to do some more tweaks to this website. I don't have to start over. I can start from here. I can start from, it does take into account everything that it's already done and generated. So as I continue to add on to this website, uh, it'll just continue to do tweaks from there. If I wanted to start a new one, then of course I would do a new chat as well. But let me give you a summary of what we did. As far as in our first example, we said create a website using Bootstrap 5. It created this kind of sample website with placeholder image text, and it made up the sections of a generic website here. But then we gave it a title and gave it some structure of what we wanted to do. So we went about videos, contact us. Then I changed the theme, added a drop-down menu there. We added a hero image, which didn't render the placeholder image correctly. So I told it to use lorem pixum and also add it to the bottom image here, or bottom sections here. Then we told it to add kind of a box around this welcome message so it's easy, it's more readable. Then we try to do all this in one prompt, and this is the prompt. This is what it rendered, and it got very close, except it didn't render the hero image. And then I told him to add in the hero image and add in some more text here. So this is just a good start for me. If I have this kind of tool, I know where I want to go. And now I can easily do some tweaks to the website to make it look unique and to exactly what I need it to do. So this is going to be one of the tools I use as a web developer. I'm mainly going to use it as a starting point, kind of like a Word document template that's really catered to my needs, or just to generate parts of a website. So I'll take code snippets here and there. But because of my knowledge and experience as a web developer, I'm able to easily take what is generated there and plug it directly into my existing projects. Now, because of that knowledge and experience as well, if what is generated is not quite what I wanted, I know what to tell the AI, how to fix it, or I can fix it myself, but a lot of the busy work has already been done. Overall, say this is a great tool, but it can't fully replace experience. You'll be put in certain situations where you'll need your experience to serve some certain issues, but these tools can help you get to those solutions as well. Now, in the near future, I'm going to be doing some more videos on ChatGPT and as it relates to WordPress, creating plugins, and even creating themes in WordPress using ChatGPT. If you found this video helpful, give it a like, consider subscribing. Until the next one, see ya.